Welcome to the Late Developers. Today we're going to be reviewing Chapter 1144 One Piece. Let's get into it. So this week we're getting another follow-up to Oni-Child Yamato's Golden Harvest Surrogate Pilgrimage, Volume 29. That is a mouthful to say. And this is honestly one of the longest cover stories we've gotten. Not that I'm complaining, I'm just wondering where the story is going. Because so far, Yamato's beaten Who's Who, and it looks like she's going to free Ulti in page 1 now. It seems, in my opinion, that we're going in the direction of her maybe forming her, like, Neo Beast Pirates crew to set out to help out in the final war. Because usually we don't backtrack in islands in One Piece. So most likely Yamato is going to set off on her own. And that seems like where the story is going. Is like, oh, we followed Kaido. We're going to follow their child now. That's my opinion. That's my theory of how this cover story is going to end. But we're 29 volumes into it. I can't see it going another 10 volumes. So it's most likely going to wrap up. And I'd give it about 5. 5 more volume covers. And then the story will wrap up. So now getting into the actual chapter, we actually pick back up with Frankie after he saw the world-shattering mural that changes the entire context of One Piece. Last chapter, we were dealing with Luffy and Loki and Harujin, and it seemed like we were going to get a backstory there, but we got to look at like other stuff that's happening on the island before we start getting the backstory stuff first. So right now, we're with Frankie and Rhea Ripley, and they actually run into Lilith and Bonnie, who are in this like super cool future looking house, which Rhea Ripley actually says that it's like 3,000 years old or something like that, which is like one of the oldest dates we ever get in One Piece. I know that the Tree of Knowledge is 5,000 years old, and the Kingdom of Alubarna is actually 4,000 years old. So this makes the third oldest thing to date that we have in One Piece into our records. So they're all reconvening there, and then suddenly one of the nightmare creatures that Sir, what is his name? Cunningham or Killingham? Sir Killingham comes there's like a storm cloud comes out and it starts attacking them, and Frankie has this like funny reaction. He's like, wow, you really see everything here in Elbaf. And then Rhea Ripley's like, no, I have no idea what this is. We are in danger. So now chaos is ensuing on the entire island, and we see like every part of the island is feeling the effects of the God's Nights, where now like between the fires and the children getting spirited away and the giant yokai monsters attacking everybody, everyone is just in an absolute panic. So we first cut off to Frankie, and then now we're cutting back to the western village, and we see everyone in a panic because the firefighters got knocked away, so they can't even put out the fires. And these giant yokai monsters, even though they're you know part of a devil fruit ability, they're still strong. Like they're giant monsters, and they're giving the giants a run for their money. So like it's not just like, you know, even though Saul beat one in one hit, don't forget he's a vice admiral, so he's a him. It's a bit different for like, you know, the average citizens who we know aren't necessarily warriors, right? So even the Straw Hats, they're trying to help. Like Usopp has a moment where he's like, yeah, we want to fight too, you know, and then Jinbei calls him out on it. He's like, you said that part lower than like the rest of your speech. So the Straw Hats want to help out, but the giants are like, no, you're our guest. We don't want you to fight. You know, you guys, you know, you're our hero. Why would we want you to get involved in our mess? We can defend our own island. So just chaos is just going all over the entire island right now. So at this point now, we actually cut away to Colin, who we see is trying to like get involved in adult activities and help out. He's very similar to Luffy in the sense that like he's trying to get involved in like the fights that he's too young to be getting involved in. He's gonna be like a burden more than he's actually gonna be useful. And a lot of people were saying that, oh, this might be an opportunity for Luffy to have a Shanks moment where he protects someone who's younger. I don't necessarily see that happening because it kind of would take away from the whole moment of Shanks losing his arm unless Luffy lost something of like equal or greater value, which, you know, maybe Luffy might lose an eye or something like that. I don't know, just throwing that out there before the final war. He becomes the eye patch pirate that we're still waiting for. But yeah, basically the Straw Hats are like, okay, the giants are going to deal with the giant problems, but we as experienced fighters, we know that there's most likely humans doing this work here, so we're going to go investigate that. The problem is that it's a big island. So how are we going to find people? Like, we can't just go by foot, you know, knocking on doors and stuff like that. So luckily, Colin is actually sneaking off on his own. And he is like a relatively mini-sized ship for him. But to normal humans, it's just a regular sized ship basically. So he sails off with the Straw Hats, and then they're going to an undisclosed location to basically find out who's actually behind this, because they've basically figured out, yeah, it's the work of devil fruit users. Let's go find them. So now we cut back to the God's Knights, who just finished eating their meal, and now they're teasing Gunko about listening to music. She's listening to music on something labeled TD, which we can assume stands for tone dial. A lot of people have been doing speculations about Gunko recently, about like, oh, maybe she was a commoner who became a God's Knight, and that's why she was so offended by, Loki not taking the offer. I don't really have a lot of theories for her. Like, I don't think that, like, she was exposed to the beauty of being a celestial dragon, and now she's trying to be an evangeliist to spread the word about our Lord and Savior Shamrock. I just think that, maybe she's just another God's Knight. Like I said, I don't see too much going on there as far as, like, reveals go. I do think that there's more to explore the characters, but, like, so far the theories that I haven't seen have, like, convinced me, like, no, she's, like, a sleeper agent, or she was, like, a member before, and I don't know. We'll have to see more about these characters before we have, like, a better understanding of how they work. But then, like, basically the God's Knights are watching, like, still about the chaos ensuing, so they're watching the fires go on and the giant yokai monsters attack and whatnot. And basically, they just try, like, a bunch of different things. Like, they're trying to, like, stop the children, like, with shields, but then when they stop the children from the front, they just bump into each other, and that's not good, because then they're, like, stabbing each other. We don't want that, right? Saul does manage to pull, like, one child away using a rope from behind. We'll have to see what strategies they employ. But honestly, a lot of people are complaining because it's like, this seems like tailor-made for Robin's abilities. And I get it. It's easier said than done, because she shouldn't just, like, stab her hands and have a lot of pain. But, like, if there was any scenario where Robin's abilities were just straight up useful to, like, make a problem not a problem, this would be one of those problems. Like I said, it's easier said than done, because she does have to, like, stab her hands. But still, better than watching the children burn in a fire. So we'll have to see how this plotline ends. On the last couple of pages of the chapter, we actually see just chaos absolutely ensuing all over the island. The sleep paralysis monsters that have been plaguing them so far are still giving them a run for their money. I think it's very important to note, though, that, like, the giants that are currently fighting the sleep paralysis yokai are not Elbaf's primary fighting forces. They're just, like, the civilians. Like, aside from Saul, who was a vice admiral, need to bring that up, the other ones were teachers. And yeah, they're giants and they're strong and stuff like that, sure, but they aren't, like, the average fighting forces. Kind of like how in, like, Zoe, every mink was a capable fighter in their own right, but they weren't, like, the mink's army and fighting forces. So, like, when the army arrived, they told the civilians to get back. That's kind of what's going on here now, especially after we hear Hakoku's sovereignty, when Dorian Broggy's signature attack, the same attack that they used to utterly decimate Kid and his crew and destroy the giant goldfish. They send that resonating, and they destroy one of the sleep paralysis yokai that looked like a dragon or whatnot, and they're actually ready to step on the scene. And we also see Scopper Gabon on the scene, and so they're ready to take the fight to the yokai monsters. So things are picking up in Elbaf already. I think we're only like 10 chapters in, so I'm really excited to see where this goes. Me personally, I'm gonna say this now, I'm not expecting Oda to, like, give Usopp, like, the best fight I've ever seen in my life, but it is noteworthy to mention that, like, Usopp hasn't done a lot so far, and I'm hoping that there is a payoff resolution to us following this. Oda has to do something with Usopp that resonates with us as fans in this arc. He needs a moment. He needs a real character arc. Things are picking up now, and we've set a ground base work. I do wish Usopp was more involved. Like, maybe he should have been the one to see the mural. Maybe he should have been the one to interact with Loki. Something that keeps Usopp so far isn't involved in the plot too much. That being said, I do want to give Oda some leeway here. He does need to tell a story. He's always been known for, like, moving multiple chess pieces. Sometimes that means the Straw Hats get left out. That's like why people wanted Zoro to have more involvement in Wano, etc., etc. But this arc is Usopp's arc, and so far we haven't been getting a lot of Usopp. So I'm just hoping that does change in the future. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. This is technically one of my first One Piece reviews I've ever done. I appreciate you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next week.